live radio, local podcasts, the Frederick Podcast Network at listenfrederick.com.
It's time to experience the O on the original Sports Podcast. Here's your host, Mark Maradei.
You know what day it is? It's Tuesday, everybody, and it's a live podcast with the OSP and the Barbershop crew. Hey, I told you guys, the NFL guys never, ever goes away. And I know I'm right. This week, we get the show rolling with a special guest. He's going to talk basketball just because his career was all about basketball. We're going to talk a little big dance with him and a little big dance on our own. We're going to roll out our views on the NFL Combine just a little bit because I think next week we can get into it deeper. Who made a case for themselves? You know, that kind of stuff. We're going to do some spontaneous reactions, a little T-Quizzle, T-Sizzle Quizzle, I should say. And the Dream's got his question fired up. And, Mikey, we're going to let you come up with your new segment for the next show. So let's get this going. It's episode 38 of season 4. We only got 2 more episodes after this, and that's a wrap on season 4, guys. Right to my left is T-Sizzle. Give him a shout-out, T-Sizz. Underneath him is Chops. What's up, Chops? Yeah. Noob's in the house with his Chargers hat on, even though he went back to the Commanders, and I appreciate that.
East Coast, West Coast
there he is, the Dream, joining us as always. Hey, y'all like my little bucket hat I'm wearing tonight, y'all?
I thought Willie Stargell.
Wow.
Willie Stargell. That's who I was thinking of too.
It's got the stars on and everything. I think I picked this up for like 15.
Yeah.
Is
it a bucket hat or a?
It is a bucket hat.
Oh wow.
Yeah, it's a bucket hat. Hey fellas, before we get the show really rolling, I just want to give a shout out to Chris Mortenson. Died at 72 years old. I got to tell you, he was one of my favorite guys ever. Listening to him speak, he always had truth coming out of his mouth. He didn't make up stories. He knew before he said anything that he had to have the facts on it. So, you know, big shout out to Chris. Appreciated everything he brought to the sports world. Yeah, just thought I'd do that. And I know I speak for all of us. So I hope his family does well. And it was definitely a shock to me. I'm sure it was a shock to you guys because I didn't know if he was sick or anything like that. So, yeah. Hey, spontaneous reactions.
He suffered a stroke or something a year or
Is that what it was?
Throat cancer.
Cancer.
Yeah, throat cancer.
They never mentioned it. Never mentioned it.
I remember them mentioning it in 16 or 18 years ago. Maybe but because when he came back, you could see his speech was a little different and he looked different.
Yeah.
But it was like he had it, but he was fine. I never knew it was getting to this point where he was about to go because it did. It hit me. You know, I was like, wow.
My other favorite guy that passed away really young that was on ESPN was Stuart Scott.
Oh yeah, man,
love Stuart Scott. He transitioned that whole being a guy on ESPN. He brought.
And the crazy part is, I have never had like the wow moment when an athlete passes. I've never, there's always guys I've liked, whatever, but I've never fallen like that. But when Stuart Scott, Chris Mortenson, when there's been journalists, you know what I mean? I'm like, wow, Bradley, who was on the guy from 60 Minutes, Ed Bradley, there's certain guys that like journalists, because I think though, those guys were sort of in the old school frame where now journalists are, let's get it out first. Don't want to be right. Let's just get it out first.
And they don't care if it's true or not. They just put it out
those
there.
Guys vetted everything. They vetted everything to make sure. It was just a different time. Yeah. But he'll definitely be missed.
Hey, guys, LeBron James has topped 40,000 points for his career, which is still not over, to be honest with you. You guys see anyone in the foreseeable or distant future who's going to hit 40,000 points? That's a lot of points.
It is. It is. Now let's put in perspective to some degree. If Jabbar doesn't go to high school, he puts up a whole lot more points. Number one, you know what I think. But also now they have the G League, so you can't even come out of high school. That's at least one season you're going to miss. You know what I mean? At least one season. And fellas, again, I hate to be the old man, get off my lawn. They don't play D anymore.
No, they don't.
You realize he's Gronk's size, and nobody D's him up too. Yes, he runs down the lane, he can do whatever. I don't think we'll ever. I don't think we'll see it again. Of course, you know, as they say, records are made to be broken. But
I want to see a transition back to the big man game, which was what I loved.
That's
we're going to ask our guest tonight. I know our guest is getting ready to join us here, but we're going to ask him a little bit about how he felt about the big man game compared to, the 3-point shooters today.
And that's another thing. Yeah, Kareem didn't have the 3-point shot. No, I don't think he could be skyhooking from out there either. But it's been 35 years since this record has been alive.
Yeah.
Are we going to see it? I probably won't see it in 35 years. I don't know.
Probably gone in 35.
He didn't have the 3-yard, the 3-pointer. The fact that I would like to know, even though with Kobe being gone, because Kobe made this statement about how the All-Star game was watered down before he passed tragically at a young age. So now I'd like to see what his take would be on the All-Star game, how the game has changed compared to when he played. And it wasn't that long ago, but it is significantly different even when Kobe played.
Hey, I'm going to spit one more fact out at you, and then we got one more spontaneous reaction before we get to our guest. But did you know that there was no 3-point line when Maravich played, right? Caitlin just broke his record, when he played, if they'd have had a 3-point line, he would have averaged 57 points a game. 57 points a game. That would have been insane.
Cool.
So, hey, when we talk about the most important person on the position on the football field, center is rarely the guy we're talking about, right? But yesterday, Jason Kelce retired from the Eagles after 13 seasons. It was an emotional retirement for a guy who had spent all his years at Philly in the trenches, ducking bottles, getting cussed out, yet getting cheered at the same time. Many of the players, coaches, fans talked about his value on the field, in the locker room, and in the community. Do you think this is true about Jason valued that much as an Eagle, or a lot of this come to light when his brother started dating Taylor Swift?
No.
What do you think?
No,
I believe he really is that dude. I believe he's really that dude.
Yeah.
7-time Pro Bowler. Yeah, I believe he's that dude. And as you guys know, the center runs the O-line.
I was going to say, take
the
that
center runs the O-line. I believe
on
he's
and away, huh, Mike? On and away.
Yeah, man. I mean, it's a little more than on and away at that level, but he's making all the damn calls, and he makes the quarterback's job so much easier. You see, when they have a new center come in, the quarterback's trying to make the blocking calls and then trying to adjust the formations and all the other. He takes all that away from the quarterback. It doesn't. It's one less thing he has to worry about.
Yes, sir.
Recently they've played some of his audio clips about him blocking and talking about the technique that he's used. I mean, he is an incredible technician and an incredible athlete at that position.
Yeah, we all know he liked to party hard, but he definitely worked hard. And I think if he would decide to go back, he earned that $9 million that they just dangled out in front of him yesterday or this week. He would have definitely taken it, but he decided it's time to move on.
Is he first ballot?
Man,
yes, 100,000%.
I was gonna say, how could he not be? But again, and the crazy part about it is, fellas, when you think about it, look at the quarterbacks he's had since he played. Whether it was even Vic for a little bit, Vince Young, Carson Wentz, Jalen Hurts, Nick Foles took Nick Foles. I mean, fellas, you realize the other quarterbacks were coming in, and that line was still solidified. Regardless, you know what I mean? That's huge. That is huge. I mean, he's definitely Hall of Famer. And it's kind of funny because he could have come back for $9 million. He could have taken the bag, and he could have played, and he'd have started, and he'd have been efficient. But he was like, "No, man, I don't need the money.
Why would you let your brain get beat like that for another season?"
Man. I respect that. The way he did, he said, "I don't need the money."
Hey, T-Sizz,
what's up?
You're on the carpet right now. I want you to introduce our guest as we bring him in.
Red. All right. Our guest tonight, guys, is none other than Spencer Spinny Johnson, who's a local legend, growing up in Montgomery County, played for Geneva, setting all kind of records up there. He'll tell us more about that. Played with the greats of the Harlem Globetrotters, people like Wilt Chamberlain, Curly Neal, and such. And recently, he is the president of On the Ball Spinning Inc., where he's goes around, gives motivational speeches, and inspires the youth, which one of the reasons why we had him on here being that we're all connected and affiliated with the school system in some form or fashion. So I'd like to turn it over and welcome our special guest, Mr. Spinny Johnson.
What's going on, Spinny?
Well, hey, thanks for having me today or this evening.
Hey, Spinny, who had the better dunk, Dr. J or Michael Jordan?
Dr. J.
Okay, I'm with you there.
Well, only because he was a little stronger, and that 1 inch made a difference. I've never seen Michael Jordan back down Bill Walton twice in the playoffs and dunk over him. Yeah. And Walton was a great defensive player, one of the best centers to play defense. But Julius backed him down and dunked on him twice in that series.
Wow. He was the fish that saved Pittsburgh, Spinny.
My favorite. My favorite of all time, baby.
Yeah, mine too.
He's one of my favorites as well.
Well, hey, let's get into this. Tell us a little bit about yourself, your journey becoming a Harlem Globetrotter, everything everything in between.
Very fortunate and very blessed. I was not recruited by any college out of high school. We ended up losing the state finals by 1 point my senior year. I started school after setting out a year. I went to Lock Haven State, which is in the eastern part of Pennsylvania. Played there a half a semester. Jim Christopher, who was the coach who recruited me, he had left the season before. So I called him up after my best game at Lock Haven, and I told him I wanted to transfer. So I transferred from Lock Haven State to Geneva College in Beaver Falls, Pennsylvania. And I have to give my coach a lot of respect and props because from day one, he gave me the starting position at the point guard, and I never looked back.
Spinny, you want to know something interesting? I got recruited by Geneva to play football there.
Well, matter of fact, I just got inducted into the Hall of Fame this past October.
Wow. Congratulations.
That's awesome.
A huge accomplishment. Congratulations.
Really cool.
But I was fortunate to play with some real strong talent. We had a 6'9" center from DC, Clyde Soule. We had a 6'7" small forward from Flat Rock, Michigan. We had Jim Washington from Pittsburgh, 6'4", Greg Jones, 6'4", and I tilt the scale in a big way because I'm only 5'4", but we had nice size. I played with nice size.
You were the original Muggsy Bogues.
Yes, I was going to say that.
In Spud West.
10 years before Muggsy. About 10 or 11 years before Muggsy. Wow. I will admit, Muggsy, great player.
There he is.
His defense probably was better than mine, but my offense, I think, was better than his. But defense wins ball games. I'm smart enough to know that. I played good D, but I always felt that defense and rebound wins ball games.
Nice.
Hey, now I did hear you all talking a little bit about Pistol Pete and the 3-pointers before you brought me on. I was unable to meet Pistol. Every place that I would go, either before I would come after Pistol, because he worked with Meadowlark for a little while. I don't know if you knew that, but I think he worked with Meadowlark with his team. Meadowlark had a team called the Shooting Stars. So I would do the advanced work, go and prep the schools and talk about them coming. So our paths never crossed, but I did hear stories about him because he lived in Aliquippa before he moved. And They telling stories about him spinning the basketball until his tips of his fingers would bleed. Someone said, I think the barber, you said he would average 57. I'm
That's
going
what
to
they
say
said.
60.
Yeah.
I think he could have averaged 60.
Wow.
If he averaged 44 with no three, so say, for example, if he hit 3 or 4, 5 threes a game, that's 15 points. And he had that range. So I've always felt, he would have averaged about 60.
Spinny, do you think he's the best there ever was?
I don't give anybody that accolade.
Okay.
LeBron is great. I don't give him this thing about the GOAT. If you've seen, I saw a podcast last week. Someone sent me about Rick Barry. Rick Barry said, that's a bunch of crap. And I feel the same way. How can you compare LeBron with Kareem? Two different positions. How can you compare a point guard with a center or a point guard with a power forward? That's just my personal feeling. I don't think anybody is the greatest.
And the eras.
They're all great in their own way.
Yeah.
And the era, the different eras, the philosophies, all that.
Yeah, and that's true.
So tell us a little bit, what brought you to basketball? What made you want to develop those skills and take it to the next level?
Well, I don't know if you're familiar with Poolsville.
That's where I work.
Oh, okay. Well, I grew up in Poolsville. And, my grandmother had a nice size acre ground that she lived on. My first cousin put a basketball on a pole, and it ended up becoming the Dust Bowl because there was no asphalt, no concrete, anything. You just played on the grass until the grass wore off.
Yeah.
And then it became the Dust Bowl. I would walk down and watch the older guys play, and I just was fascinated with the game. So I started playing it. And one thing about the game of basketball, you don't need anybody else to play with. And I think that attracted me to it as well. All you need to do is have a ball in the hoop, and you can. I used to imagine myself playing against the Big O every time I play. I always say I'm the Big O, or I'm playing against the Big O. But that's how I got started. Excuse me?
Who was your favorite player growing up then?
Well, the Big O was one of my favorites because he was a point guard. I loved the old Celtics because they were with Bill Russell, Sam Jones, Casey, Heinsohn, John Havlicek, which I had an opportunity to play with and against up in the Boston area. Those teams were great because everybody did what they were supposed to do. It wasn't an ego on there that I've ever heard about. And that's why they won so many championships. Bill Russell always said that they, at the beginning of the season, they would be playing for something. Say, for example, if somebody was retiring, they were playing to win that championship for that person who's retiring. And, but I was a Celtics fan, but Oscar was, one of the greatest point guards ever. So I always looked at myself as trying to emulate him.
Got you. Hey, let me ask you this. What was it like to be such a big part, or being a part of an iconic and historic basketball team like the Globetrotters?
Well, when I got drafted, that was the only, none of the pros, none of the NBA teams, they knew about me, but nobody would open the door. If you think about it, in 1976, there wasn't any 5'4", 5' guys playing because the game was more so posting up. Even, you had guards posting up back then. So nobody gave me an opportunity. So when I got the opportunity to try out with the Globetrotters, I was very, very happy, even though my experience with the actual Globetrotter was only like several months. I was released, and then I joined back up with Meadowlark Lemon when he started his own franchise. Him and Mr. Haynes, who to me is the greatest ball handler of all times. If you watch some of the clips of him, then Meadowlark and Marcus decided to go their separate ways. So I ended up traveling and going with Mr. Haynes for another 2.5 years. So I traveled for about 3.5, 4 years, and I got a little tired quite early. Plus, I wasn't getting the big paper like a lot of the other players were getting. So I started my own motivational speaking in 84, and I've been doing it for like 40 years.
That's interesting.
This is my 40th school year.
Wow. That's awesome. Hey, Spinny, can you think of any memorable experiences you had or moments with the Harlem Globetrotters? Like anything that stood out?
The overseas touring, going to the different countries, seeing how different people live, how well we were welcomed. That was one of the greatest experiences for me. But one of the biggest experiences for me is having the pleasure of being a roommate with Mr. Marcus Haynes. Mr. Haynes played about 6-7 decades.
Got you.
So, and if you notice the respect, Meadowlark is Meadowlark, but Mr. Haynes is Mr. Haynes.
Yeah.
Oh,
What countries did you go to, Spinny?
Well, I played in Europe. I played in South America. I played in Europe, played in Germany. I've been to Saudi Arabia. Only been to the Philippines, played in the Philippines. All long rides.
so would you say the Globetrotters are like the original ambassadors to help spread the brand?
Said, excuse me?
I said, would you say the Globetrotters are the original ambassadors to help expand the brand of basketball to
the different countries? Yeah, I would agree with that.
Okay.
I would agree with that.
Yeah.
No, Spinny, I have so many questions. I'm going to narrow it down to this. No, like, what were some of the biggest challenges you faced during your time with the Globetrotters? Or did you
egos?
Okay. So was that because these guys all felt they should have been in the NBA? Was it felt because everybody felt they were the best one on the team? Or when you say egos, how does that? Could you elaborate on that a little bit?
I will. I don't think everybody felt that they should have been in the NBA. I didn't get that feeling. Is that, with the Globetrotters, you have showmen, you have guys that have acting parts, where not everybody talks, but you have certain people had skits. Let's put it that way. That makes it easier to understand. When I was in Meadowlark's organization, I didn't have skits. When Mr. Haynes brought me with him, I had about 3 or 4 skits that I would do throughout every game. One skit was I would take the ball, run up in the bleachers, point to 3 or 4 ball-headed gentlemen, and I would ask the referee which ball you want. So then I would say this one, this one, this one. So that was a skit. My dribbling routine was a skit, doing the dribbling. I had another skit where I would, during the course of the game, but some of the teams would let me do it, where I would jump up, carry the ball underneath my legs, and shoot with the opposite hand, make a lab with the opposite hand.
No.
So, and then I would do a 360 in the game.
And real quick, 10 seconds. As you said, with the way the game was played in your size, a lot of NBA teams wouldn't even look at you. I don't want to use the word resent, but how do you feel if you'd at least gotten your chance to match up with somebody? At least bring me in for camp. Let me see. How do you feel you would have dealt, and being honest with your game?
Being honest with you, I played in the DC Pro League every summer. I've been matched up against John Battle, Sherman Douglas, and I was, older then.
I was going to say Sherman Douglas from
Yeah.
Syracuse, the point guard, Sherman Douglas?
Yes.
Wow. Okay. Okay.
Brad Davis used to come up and play before he went to college at Maryland. He used to come up to Beagle Falls and play with us at Geneva College. Johnny Moore, who played for San Antonio Spurs for probably about 10 years. Him and I played one-on-one. He won one, I won one. So looking at that, but in saying all of this, do I think I could have played? Yes. But I always felt that if I played 15 to 18, maybe 20 minutes, and the way the NBA gives assists, if I couldn't average 10, I didn't deserve to play.
Yeah. Because your ball skills alone would have created assists, the way you could handle the ball.
I think so.
Yeah.
I think so.
Yeah.
And if you think about the NBA, you could get the ball and have a dribble and you can still get an assist. In college, you don't get, you probably get it now, but you didn't get that when I played. As soon as the ball hit the floor, that's not your creativity, even though it should be, but you didn't create it. They didn't give you an assist.
I understand.
Now, real quick, I did hear you all talking about the game. Like, I think that you all were talking about the All-Star game. Mm-hmm. I can watch the All-Star game. I'm with Kobe on that. And I'm much older than Kobe, but I can watch the All-Star game. I have a very distasteful feeling about the game today. I still respect the great players and everybody who's in the league, but I don't enjoy watching it now because it's too many 3 attempts.
And I hate to say,
I just don't enjoy it.
Yeah,
I think we all feel the same way here. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't want to be as bold as to say that Steph Curry ruined the game, because I'm not going to put that on him.
No, he's a great shooter.
But every kid that comes into the gym wants to be Curry. Even in the All-Star break, they had 7-footers in the 3-point contest this year. There's and that's what bothers me. No big men, no guys that are out there to be like the one assist.
You got to know your role. Guys don't know their roles. You got to know your role.
Spinny, I always say that Steph Curry's just he's his dad in a different era, because his dad could shoot the lights out of the ball.
Yeah, and a lot of people don't know that.
Yeah,
Dale Curry could flat out stroke it.
Yeah.
So, Mr. Johnson, how do you think the Harlem Globetrotters have contributed to the broader culture of basketball?
They contribute because they go everywhere and play. They go everywhere and play. The one thing that I kind of wish that they would do, but I guess you can't do it because of injuries, but we did it. When I was with Mr. Haynes, we would go play other people in other areas. Like when we were in Germany, we went to the military base and we played them. So say, for example, we in Chicago playing. Chicago, let's get North Chicago, not the whole. North Chicago could get their best players in North Chicago, and we would play them. So in order for us to really do our fancy stuff, we had to have substantial lead on these teams, or we had to play strict basketball. I remember a game over in Germany. We had to play basketball the whole 40 minutes. Wasn't no entertaining with tricks, because the military team was just that good. And we only won by 2.
And real quick, Mrs. Johnson, with that,
Spencer is good. Spencer.
All right, Spencer or Spinny. Now you see a lot of European players. You see a lot of European players going to top 10, top 5.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't remember as many big time European players in the numbers we're getting now as I do back in the late 70s and early 80s. So I'm sorry.
That's true. I look at David Stern who did the integrating as far as with European players. I'm not saying that they can't play, because you're going to tell me that Doncic can play? Luka? Shoot. I can, Nowinski?
Yeah.
Sabonis? If Sabonis had been over here when he was younger, oh my goodness.
How about the boy from Denver?
Huh?
The boy from Denver.
Joker.
Yeah.
So that is why it transcended that they start bringing the European players, because they are good.
And I was wondering, because you guys as the Harlem Globetrotters took basketball overseas a lot more. And I think, as a question, I think that really did affect the way Europeans started looking at basketball, to realize, because again, we didn't see much of that before you guys started going over. And I do think it affected, so
it had a big effect as far as broadening the game worldwide. Not just European, other countries have produced,
Asia.
some nice pros. What's the guy, the left-hander from San Antonio?
Ginobili.
Ginobili. Ginobili was a monster.
Yeah.
And he didn't even start for San Antonio.
That's wild, isn't it?
Yeah, he's a Hall of Famer and didn't, came off the bench. But once again, he had that right attitude that, hey, I do what I can do. I end up at the end of the game. I don't have to start. When the game is being closed out, I'm still on the floor. They were big ambassadors as far as introducing the game to other countries.
Spinny, did you ever have the opportunity to play against Manigoat? Earl Manigoat?
No. But Kareem still today says he's the best player he's ever seen.
Yeah.
He's not talking about LeBron. He's not talking about Michael. He's not talking about, he says I saw an interview where he said he is the best player, or the greatest player he's ever played against or with.
Wow. He died early too, huh? In his 50s.
Man, yeah.
Yeah. I it's unfortunate. The streets, man, the streets. Well, that's just like Hammond and Pee Wee Kirkland. Pee Wee Kirkland turned down the NBA opportunity.
He's making
He
more money.
said he can hustle more at home than going to play. He said somebody offered him like $75,000. I mean, you think about it, $75,000 back then.
Back in the day.
Yeah.
That was a lot of money. But he said no. He said, I can do I can make more by just staying in around here in New York. Yes, he went in prison and stuff.
But let me ask you this, Benny, real quick. What did you take more pride in? Your exceptional, or when you watch a game, do you like the guys that could ball handle, shoot, or did you like the guys that could lock you down on D and play man and just and keep his guy in check? What did you prefer?
Can I use myself as an example?
Absolutely.
My greatest attribute to the game is my knowledge before my talent. I do teach kids, and I try to teach them the basic fundamentals about the game first, because you can be the most talented team, but you don't always win. But thinking, and it is a thinking man or woman's game. You want to make it easier. So that's just like me. I'm a point guard. I come down and I'm jacking it up. I'm not making it easy for my team. My big men are not going to rebound. My big men are not going to block shots if they don't touch the ball. It is a thinking man's game. And the second strongest part of my game, I thought, was my conditioning. Because I didn't get tired. That's why Michael was getting 10, 15 points in the last 2 minutes. He was in better condition than other people. Kobe the same way. So those two attributes I credit and give a lot of respect to my game. Now, yes, I could shoot. and I did play defense, but I like my savvy with my knowledge of the game first, and then being in great shape always, never out of shape. I mean, before the pandemic.
I was gonna say, Spinny, as a coach, I love hearing that. That's awesome. The being in shape and all that. We try to push that with our kids all the time, and not too many of them stay in shape.
But if you think about it, those who are in great shape, very seldom do they get major injuries.
Yep.
Oh, facts. Yes, 100%.
That's a big fact. Yep. LeBron's done played 20-some years. LeBron hasn't had a major. Now, wait a minute. LeBron's a freak of nature because his body, his physique is, he can stand some punishment. But still, his conditioning and I think that's. And I tell kids, when you play basketball, you got to do a little extra running, do a little bit of road work. Don't run on the road because I just had a knee replacement. But that's all I had. When I did my jogging, I didn't think about running on the path, which right now I walk and run on a path. But yeah, it's conditioning.
So this kind of goes with that. Can you share any lessons that you learned from your time with the Globetrotters or any time like on tour or anything that apply to your life today?
Well, Mr. Haynes, I'm going back to him. Of my experience being out on the road, the greatest thing that I've taken from the road is learning how to be a professional. And I learned that from Mr. Haynes because I watched him, his demeanor, his behavior. Because I have my own business, when I go to a school doesn't have to look for me. If I'm supposed to start my show at 2:00, I'm there at 1:30, 1:15. That's professionalism. I'm not making passes at the teachers, a lot of nice looking teachers, a lot of young teachers. I'm not going out my way trying to give them my number or trying to receive their number. I see you smiling, but
it's a cultural way. Yeah.
You let a skirt can destroy your business. So, but that's the thing that I take away from being out on the road the most. Yes, I enjoyed, going to different countries, playing in every state. Only state I haven't played in is Hawaii. So that's my next big vacation with my wife, going to Hawaii because I've never been there.
Wow.
But
I saw, I don't know, maybe 10 years ago, my son was in elementary school. You came out and performed. And I still vividly remember it. Tell us a little bit about On the Ball Spinny Inc. and how you stay connected to the game, to the basketball community, so our listeners can know a little bit more about that.
Well, I'm also a substitute teacher in Montgomery County for the past 30 years. So when I go to a school to do the subbing, I'm nitpicking with trying to find out who the principal is. Well, this is what I do best. I said, I'm a substitute teacher, but my program, I talk about respect. I talk about education. I talk about believing in oneself, setting goals for oneself, being responsible for your choices. So when I go, like right now, I'm going over to Mount St. Joseph next month, but I can talk a little bit higher because I'm dealing with older kids. So I can talk about smoking, the fentanyl.
Yeah.
I can mention those things, letting the kids know that there's no growth dealing with either one of those things.
I got you. Yeah.
So you don't want to beat your body up. I usually share this. Your body is like a temple. You only have one.
Yeah.
Something go wrong, you can't just go to the store and buy a piece to fix it.
Spinny, how long
Legos, right?
Excuse me?
I said it's not like Legos.
No. So you don't want to beat your body up.
Yeah. Spinny, how long have you been motivational speaker and talking to kids, doing with the children?
Started in 84.
Okay.
Right as soon as I left the road.
Have you noticed, I noticed it, but I'm not in the schools like you and the Barber and Coach Nukes. Are you noticing a big difference between the way you would speak to children, how receptive they were of the message then compared to now? Or are kids just kids and it's still the same? Or
Well,
you
kids are kids, but there's unbelievable amount of disrespect in the schools right now. I'm telling you, it kills me every day. The disrespect that's in the schools. But I don't blame the kids.
Starts at home.
It starts at home. But our educational system have given the kids too much power.
Thank you.
They have too much power. They can tell you, you can't do this. I ain't going to do that. Man, if I said that to my teachers and know that that's going to get back home to my mom or dad, oh my goodness.
Same.
And then kids, second grade, just get up and walk out of class, you know.
So,
and
Spinny, we have an opening for superintendent of MCPS. Would you be interested in that?
No.
Come on, we need you.
Someone like you.
No, well, they have somebody. They have somebody.
No, we need you.
She's
we need you.
Somebody.
Yeah.
No, because then the parents gonna be coming at gunning, wanting to shoot and kill me because of their kid will be sent home. Think about this. Waters Landing, third grader brings a gun, brings a knife to school. Nothing happened. Comes to school the next day, not reprimanded or anything.
That's right behind my house. Dang.
Spinny, you just had a situation happen in your community out there in Poolsville that you have no idea, do you?
No.
Okay. So we could talk about that at another time, but there was a serious situation that happened, and it ended up focusing around a young man that ended up at Poolsville. And it's just incredible how, let's just say it like this, they like to sweep stuff under the rug and not bring it to the forefront and take care of business like they did. You're very old school, like every one of us are here. You're very old school. We're all over 50 years old here, and we don't believe in any of that stuff. It's well, I forgot Sizzle isn't. He's close. But, you know, at the end of the day, it's such a different world that we live in today. And you talking about, you know, how the school system lets them get away with it. I don't get upset at my immediate administration. I get upset at the people above them who enforce that upon our immediate administration to make that happen.
And I totally agree. The upper echelon are not in the trenches. If the upper echelon comes down and get in the trenches, they would see what they are really doing, which could change some things.
I'll say this for the lady who's superintendent right now. I actually worked under her. She was in the trenches. She got it. She was in the trenches. We may not have seen eye to eye inevitably, but she was in the trenches and she got it. And she worked very hard to get to where she is. So my hat goes off to her from that perspective. But still, the perspective of America today that rolls into the educational system, we entitle the kids way too much, way too much. So, hey, let me get one more question in on you, my guy. Finally, what message would you like to leave our listeners with, especially those who admire your career and your accomplishments that you've had, because you had a lot of accomplishments in life?
Number one thing is we all have this gift. Everybody's born with the gift to love. That's what our world is missing right now. It's not enough love. It's just take, or constantly being disrespectful. We need, they might, if some of the subs or some of the teachers hear me, we need to go back, maybe put a little bit of prayer back in school. But we do have to spread more love.
How about that? Absolutely, 100%.
I'm with you.
100%. I personally would like to thank you for giving us your time and sharing your incredible journey. And I think we're really lucky to have you on here and lucky to have you in the school system doing what you do. I mean, God bless for everything you do.
Well, I'm hoping he continues to bless me, because that's why I can't walk away, because the kids need somebody.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be me, but say, for example, they keep hearing me talk about respect, be a good listener, be a good listener, be a good listener. My daughters will tell you that's all I preach to them. You're in school to learn. If you meet a new friend, that's just gravy. But you're not there to meet friends.
Right.
Your teachers are not there to be your friends. They're there
100%.
to teach you.
I was in probably my third or fourth year when I heard that message. And I still tell my kids this today. You to go to school, you have two jobs, listen and learn. And I credit that to you. And we love having you on the show today. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you, guys.
Enjoy, keep working hard. We appreciate it.
All right. Enjoy.
You take care.
Have a good
Bye-bye.
evening.
Thanks.
Thank you, Spinny. Love your message. Thank you.
Just got to continue.
Yes, sir.
Have a good evening.
You too.
You too.
Hey, awesome message, huh, guys? I guess he does align with what we think in terms of the reality of the schools and just society today. I mean, Chops, we can't hear you, my man.
Great guest, man.
Oh man, without question. But it's weird because, and I say weird for lack of a better term, better adjective, but seeing what he's seen, not a fair shake, you can call it what you want, but not a fair shake in the NBA just because of his size. But he's played overseas, and now a motivational speaker with the kids. I'd love to talk to him hypothetically on the Original Sports Podcast After Dark, where we're getting to the nitty gritty. We're being no politically correctness, just like behind the scenes of what he's seen, you know what I mean? To where he's not worried about being politically correct. Because in his years in the sports and other countries, he has seen some things that like,
absolutely,
damn, you know what I mean? So
I'm sure we could all share some stories. I know as a teacher, I could share some horror stories of things we saw. Story about a girl spitting on administrators last year that just blew my mind away.
Here's what I don't get, and you guys as educators, if you can help, and I know, like you said, it comes from the higher ups, but how do they have to see, even the higher ups, wow, my school was on the news again for terrible behavior, whatever it is. They don't think that, wow, we need some sort of discipline. I don't get it. I just don't get it.
Well, I think isn't it true that they try to tell the principals not to suspend kids?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah.
Well, especially they try to, so they don't want the narrative to be that they're suspending black kids.
Oh man,
it's sad. I mean, the whole thing is a mess. Like, but instead of fix the problem. Like, instead of that, they're okay. Grades aren't good, so let's just give kids 50% no matter what. Okay, well that'll fix things.
So,
it's putting a Band-Aid on a freaking slice through your arm.
The program we have now is called restorative justice instead of suspension. The restorative justice part is go home and think about what you did, but no, they're keeping the people in school, those people in school. And was that this weekend we talked about where they did this and they said, well, if you didn't put us together, they put the two people together and they started fighting then. Again, they said, if you didn't put us together, we wouldn't have fought. So the restorative justice didn't work there.
Well, one of the things I think is pretty incredible too is the hostility of boys is far, far less than the hostility of girls.
Oh,
it's incredible. I bet you if you looked at the percentage at our school alone, that it's probably 3 or 4 times more girl fights than there is guy fights. It's just incredible. To me, it blows my mind away.
And real quick, is Noob said something, and we're not going to get into the race car, but I know I understand what they're saying. It doesn't want to be the perception as though they're just suspending black kids. And as I grew up, I always knew there was a difference, regardless where I lived. The Barber remembers where I lived. I was literally the only black family in my neighborhood. But also, I realized there are some things you have to be honest with. And real quick story. You guys realize that they stopped drinking champagne after NASCAR because it was said you're promoting drinking and driving. So they were catching flack for that, so they had to stop drinking the champagne. Then they started drinking milk. Then there was a black advocacy group that said that's racist because a lot of black people are lactose intolerant and that excludes black people. Where I'm like, okay, and I understand there are a lot of black people that are lactose intolerant, but let's be honest, there aren't a lot of black people that are into NASCAR and whatnot. So that what I'm saying is there are things that are made up to be racist that have no need to be brought up as racism, whatever have you. And to me, I'm the same way, and I knew it. I mean, we didn't want to get like this political or whatever it may be on this pod, but I already know there's a lot of kids that are getting away with things because the perception rules the world. They didn't want to be perceived as we're punishing the black kids. Well, whether it's black, green, or Asian, whatever, if he's the one who threw the rock through the window, he deserves to be punished. Yeah. But now you have parents that come to the school. No, my little Johnny wouldn't do that. My little Johnny's an angel. No, your little Johnny's bad as shit. You know, where to me, if my dad came to the school, I was guilty before proving this. He didn't even
Guess what?
it.
Somebody was going to get their ass whooping. It wasn't staff.
Can I just say, so the hard part for I think all of us is growing up. We weren't taught to look at color. Like I grew up in I went to Gaithersburg High School. Like my friends looked all different ways. I had white friends, I had black friends, I had Hispanic friends. It didn't matter. Like we didn't care. It wasn't a big deal. No one said the racist word ever. Like it didn't get mentioned. No one ever mentioned it because it wasn't a thing. We all just hung out. But now everyone is told, you're white, you're black, you're Hispanic, you're this, you're that. And they constantly tell you this over and over and over. And you're all different. You're all different people. You need to look for racism. And then I hear the racist word probably 10 times a day. And it drives me crazy. I'm like, what are you talking? Like, you guys stop. Yeah. Can't we just all can't we just get along? Like, stop. Let's all just get along. Like, if I told my football team, I'm a head football coach, and I'm like, all right, all the black guys over here, all the white guys over here. Can you imagine if I separate everybody by race and how dumb that shit would look?
Yeah, you'd have 3 white guys, the rest of the team would be over there. Remember the Titans?
It would be awful. It'd be stupid. But I'm just saying that's what we do in education, though. And then from there on up, that's all we talk about. Like, stop talking about it. It's ridiculous.
But I get into arguments and disagreements with other people of color and other genders because I believe in a lot of ways of the racism we've had over the years. Now people are trying to compensate too much, as well as, whether it was in how women were sexually abused at the workplace for years. Now they overcompensate in a lot of ways where, you can't even say certain things. You can't even say, oh man, you look nice in that dress. That's taken as offensive. You can't punish the black child. Well, you were the one cutting up. You know what I mean? Yeah. So it just things are different. Like I said before, I couldn't imagine what you guys go through. I really couldn't. I could not imagine.
I just have such a hard time with it, man. Like, because I teach a bunch of kids. Like, I don't give a shit what they look like. They're kids, and you meet them where they are, and you help them grow and get stronger or get whatever your thing is. Like, God damn, it drives me crazy. Like, stop telling me that this kid's different than that kid. They're kids. Like, can't we all just be people and let's all follow the rules and get along?
This is the house I grew up in, right? This is the house I grew up in. Real quick, Martin Luther King Day at the time was not a holiday, so you had to still go to school, right? It was in January. Football season's over, so I was always making sure my grades were good during football season, so I was eligible. After football, my grades dropped. I had like a C, maybe a D, whatever have you.
Ain't no way that's happening in your parents' house.
No. So what happened was, it is now coming up. Martin Luther King Day is coming up, but it's not a holiday. So I go to my dad. Dad, I want to take off Martin Luther King Day. They're talking about, black students shouldn't go to Martin Luther King Day. Straight face. My father looks at me and says, what? Michael, with your grades, you need to go on the weekends. Martin Luther King Day. I was at school. I'll never forget it. Me and my brother both. They did not. My folks didn't play that.
I'm surprised Carol didn't whoop your ass for saying that too.
Man, my dad. I remember.
I just want to say something before you're done. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, real quick. I tried to tell my dad if you guys remember back in the late '80s, where they were saying that the SATs were culturally biased. Mm-hmm. So again, I'm just spouting things that I had heard. And I told my dad, I don't even think I should have to take these. Meanwhile, I don't want to study for. I didn't do anything with it. So I said, I don't think I should have to take them, whatever have you. Now, my father, chemical engineer, my mother, an accountant. So education was important in our house. My dad tells me, Michael, that is now again, this is before they're politically correct. That is the dumbest thing I've ever heard anyone say, you dummy. So he called me dummy. That's again before whatever. And he said, The SATs are not culturally biased for you. You grow up in a white neighborhood and go to white schools. But again, I was hearing things that I heard. I'm repeating things that I had heard on TV, and I didn't know. But again, parents play a huge role. They don't now. They don't care.
Shut that
they
down.
do not care.
Just shut that down. So, yeah.
It's a different generation, though. Your parents are. I talked to a little girl in my class today. Nice kid, great kid, and we were having a conversation, and I said, she was telling me she had 2 younger siblings, and her mother just had a baby, and I said, well, how old's mom? And she said 33. This girl's 15.
Yeah.
So think about the generation. That girl could be my daughter.
Yeah.
That girl could be my granddaughter.
Yeah.
So I just want to say, I want to say, I don't want what I said to be taken wrong. Like, I know there are issues. There are 100%. And I think in our area, things are different than they are down south. And I learned that the hard way. When I went to college, I was shocked at the difference in how things are down south, or they were in the 90s, at least when I was in school, early 90s. So I'm not saying there aren't problems, but I'm saying the way to get out of this whole situation is for us all to come together and basically do what Martin Luther King said, and the content of our character, not the color of our skin. Yeah. Like that's 100%. And I don't know any other way. Like that's how I live.
I think we got you. You're not saying anything wrong. You're saying you celebrate and you appreciate what the individual brings to your classroom, but you don't like just constantly beating that drum. And we got you. I understand what you're saying, dude.
I'm going to make 2 comments, and then we'll move on back to sports. Number one is, on a yearly basis, we have something that focuses completely and utterly on this kind of stuff, but they never give us ideas for solutions on how to pull everything back together. And the other piece is, our country, the United States of America, was deemed as a melting pot, and we've lost that identity. And what they're doing is they're pulling us in different directions instead of letting us be a melting pot and figuring out our way like we did years ago. Now it's no, we got to be all these different directions. Hey, look, at the end of the day, I just keep doing what I need to do. I teach my kids the right way. I even model it for my kids in school. Otherwise, I wouldn't have kids in my room from the time I open the door till the time I leave every day. So, hey, let's go to the combine, okay? You guys good with that? Guys who made you go.
Mark. Rasheem wanted to say something.
Oh, I'm sorry, Sheen. Go ahead. I'm sorry, my friend.
Oh, I thought you had something.
No.
I did too. Go ahead. What we got about the draft?
So I was going to say, and we're not going to do a lot on the combine, but guys who made you go, that did well in the combine to this point.
I would say that Xavier Worthy, who from Texas, who broke the 40 record. He had a 4.21, and the record was 4.22 back in 2017. I was like,
John Ross, you know where he is now?
Selling
the NFL.
Exactly.
Car wash.
Remember Ronaldo Nehemiah, who was an actual Olympic track star? He couldn't catch a cold. You know what I mean? That's
every fast guy that the Raiders drafted.
I was going to say, remember all the wide receivers the Raiders got?
Yeah.
But I will say Xavier. I think Xavier Worthy is different. He brings stats to the table, and he's a football player that can run very fast.
How about Rome? How do you pronounce that last name? Okundu?
Out of Washington.
Yeah. God dang, he opened eyes, huh?
Yeah.
Woo!
Fellas, you know what though? The 2 things that stuck out for me to the combine. Number 1 was McCarthy from Michigan was getting a lot of positive air. His throwing wasn't the best. Where to me, I've always said, if you have a bad pro day or something like that, it should be looked at negatively. But I don't get how you fall and rise doing that. But even more important than that, I'm not a Caleb Williams fan. You guys know I'm really not high on him. But I agreed with him when he was acting like a diva, and he said, I'm not doing this for teams, but you need what you have for me when you see me on tape. That's what fellas, I'm a huge guy on tape, because even if you have a great day throwing, you're not in pads. There's not 30,000, 40,000 people screaming. There's no D lineman coming at you. There's no cornerback trying to stop it. So I believe everybody should have great days passing and running routes, but that's what stuck out to me. They're upset because
the problem with film is, who are you playing in that film?
There it is.
I don't need to see USC versus Stanford versus who else is said?
UCLA.
Yeah, I need to
Washington
see you.
State,
Yeah, I
Oregon
need to
State.
see you. There you go.
But
Yeah.
here's why I'm bigger on the film than in, because again, right now, well, now I'm older, I'm 52. But when I was 25, I could have made an 8-10-yard out throw. I could have thrown it. But if now you put a D lineman in front of me, I got to read a defense. It's a whole different ball game. You know what I mean? But also, what I don't get about Caleb Williams, or people aren't taking into consideration, Pac-12 plays no defense. And when you start looking at 98% of his highlights, his guys are wide open. And still a lot of these guys, he's not hitting in stride. They're waiting for the ball. But again, I mean, I agreed with him in the aspect of you see it on film, but then I also understand why nobody takes in consideration it's Pac-12. They don't play defense. You know what I mean?
I agree.
That's
You
what
know
James
who
said.
impressed me? I don't know if you guys saw the center from Oregon. He did a one-on-one rep, no pads. One of the assistant coaches of the Pittsburgh Steelers was lined up over him, and he had to take on the guy, shuck him, and get downfield. He basically fucking picked up this 275-pound guy, threw him off to the side, and he got downfield like he was on a screen pass or going downfield to block. It
Troy
was insane.
Fatani.
Yeah, go ahead. Yeah, T-Sizz, do you have any other guys?
I'm
going to name a few guys. So Xavier Worthy's teammate, A.D. Mitchell, who actually is ranked a little bit above him.
Yep.
He ran a 4.34. I mean, that's just a little bit slower, but man, that dude can get in and out of breaks. And he's 6'2", 205.
That's big time.
Bigger, longer, heavier, 39.5-inch vertical, and an 11.4 broad jump. So
Chops, wasn't that you in high school?
Pretty much. I mean, pretty much. That was me. Real quick.
That was him going down Fox's Pizza Den.
Man, loved it. And real quick, Noob said something when Noob said in and out of breaks. Do you remember Matt Jones from Arkansas, the quarterback? Okay.
Jacksonville.
Okay. When they were talking about how fast he is, he can do this and that, and they're gonna move him receiver. Everybody was high on him. I remember that to this day. Torrey Holt sitting at the table as a special guest, and he was like, "Fella, whoa, slow down. I don't care how fast you are running a straight sprint. Does he know how to break in and out of routes? Does he know how to set his hips down and do this and do that?" And Torrey Holt dropped knowledge that even as much as we love sports, you wouldn't know, none of these other cats were thinking about. And that to me stood out like, wow, these guys to get to that level, to Torrey level, they're taking their craft to a different level.
Did you
when
mention,
he was like, I'll never forget that comment. Never.
Did you mention Brian Thomas, LSU wide receiver? Did you mention him? Dude?
Put up good numbers. No, he put up good numbers also, though.
Yeah, 6'3", 209, 4.33, 340. But they said what you just said, Chops, was in and out of the breaks, making cuts, sinking those hips, breaking off on routes.
It's
explosive. Explosive, yeah.
It's the route running for wide receivers.
Yeah,
you can run a 4.1, 4.2, but it's the route because Antonio Brown wasn't 4.3, 4.4. No. He might have been a 4.5 guy.
And now Jerry Rice. You don't have to fight to get off the line like you had to before. So now you got to be able to get off the line. Real quick, I want to ask you guys something. And the answer in 2-3 words, whatever have you. If you're a GM, who are your top 3 QBs you're looking at? Narrow down the top 3. And real quick, a 2 or 3 answer why.
Whoa. If I'm a what?
If you're a GM.
Oh, okay.
And who's your top 3 on the board and why? Real quick.
My quarterbacks?
Yeah.
I like Drake May.
Okay.
Me too.
He's got a big arm. I think he can move well in the pocket.
Good size.
I like J.J. McCarthy. I think he needs a little bit more refinement, only because I think he needs to get some more pinpoint touches. But I think he's got that leadership skill, and he does what he needs to do as a, managing quarterback, just like Brock Purdy. And my third guy, I'm up in the air on. There's a bunch of different guys. I like the kid from LSU, but he's really, Jay Daniels. I'm like you, Chops. I'm not a big Caleb Williams fan. And I've been telling new guys for this forever. There's so many things about that kid that I'm like, what the hell? And it's just not his character. But I've been reading a lot about him because I want to prove myself wrong. But man, he does a lot of things wrong, but he makes up for it playing in a shitty conference.
Yeah.
You know,
Well,
I'll take the same
about,
three.
Yeah, me too. McCarthy, though, it's not pinpoint, but the other concern is he doesn't have a long ball. They said he has no strength there.
you want Joe Milton because he's not on point at all. Short, he just got a power arm.
Joe Milton was my number 3. If they can get him to work on his accuracy, boy, oh boy, he could throw that ball.
Sheen, if he goes to somebody that can develop him for a couple of years under a veteran quarterback who will talk with him and not be an asshole, like if he would go where Kirk Cousins would go, like if Joe Milton would go where Kirk Cousins would go, look out, because Joe Milton is legit. I agree 100%.
And I'm not big into the draft. You guys know that I've already said that, but I can't wait till we have our draft show because I'm telling you right now, I'm going to be so polar opposite, just not combative, but I am having different thoughts, not negative, just different thoughts on a lot of the players people are high on. And I need to, like you said, Barber, I need to try to read more so somebody can sway me. What am I missing that everybody else sees? So that's what I'm looking forward to when we do our draft show.
Can I say something real quick, Chops?
Go ahead.
I was Chops, I was on the same page with like Drake May. I was like, I just don't see it. I watched his highlights 3 times, and I'm trying to figure out what everyone sees. But then I listened to a few people, and they talked about his size. They talked about how he throws down the middle a lot. And then when they put it all together, it kind of made sense to me how smaller guys can't throw down the middle. They just struggle, like shorter guys. They struggle throwing down the middle. And so I think there's things I know for myself that I don't think about. I just watch the film and I'm like, I love what that kid can do. Like I love Jaden Daniels. I love the way he runs. I wish when he was running, the ball was here ready to be thrown instead of here run like once he starts to go, it's gone. He's running, and he doesn't look to throw. I don't think very often. You see it occasionally where he throws late, but 9 times out of 10 it seems like he's trying to tuck the ball and run. But that size thing, I underestimated that size thing. I think that really makes sense to me when I hear it. Like 6'4" above, okay, you're great, but those shorter guys really can't throw down the middle.
Mike, 2 things. In terms of what he does with the ball, Jaden Daniels, that is more of a high school type thing because those kids can immediately get it up. Guys aren't as good as them and do the dart downfield. The second piece is, how many people really heard about Ben Roethlisberger when he was coming out? Part of the thing about Ben Roethlisberger was his size and athleticism because he was playing in the fucking MAC. You know what I mean? They say an average quarterback at the NFL level to be successful needs to be about 6'4", 220. Just to be successful. They got to be able to see, just like you said, they got to be able to see down the alleys, left, right, and middle. And if you can't
avoid injuries.
Yeah. If you can't do that, then you're not going to make it. So it's a couple. How about the guy that you went, seriously, this dude's like going to make it?
I didn't say he's not going to make it, but what I saw on Oregon's running back who just kind of killed his stock.
Bucky,
dropped to probably the 3rd round. Bucky Irving. He said he did poor.
Well, I thought he was going to be faster. I thought for sure he was going to be faster.
There's no defense in the Pac-12, so he looked like he was, There
you go.
I know this sounds weird, but next year when you're watching, or go back and watch some highlights of Pac-12 games, I swear the field looks bigger. I don't know if because everybody's always wide open, but their field looks so much wider, almost like Canadian. It does. Everybody always looks like Canadian. Real quick, as you talk about the Oregon running back, when did the importance, the appreciation, the value of a running back fall? Was it after Adrian Peterson?
No.
Where? Because now where do you think it fell? Because they don't get love like they used to.
I'm going to tell you exactly where it fell, if you guys don't mind me going here. When Le'Veon Bell shot his mouth off and wanted to be paid like the top guy on the field at $15 million or whatever it was a year guaranteed, that's when the position fell. The New England Patriots clearly said, we don't need a guy at $15 million a year. We need a guy that makes $3, $4, $5 million a year. We'll rotate 3 different guys through there. We'll go with the hot hand. We talked about this at Saturday's show at Vanish, and it holds true today. But I think Le'Veon Bell did more of a hindrance to the position than he did a help to the position.
Wow.
Well, to some degree, but also in that aspect, we have more back now, because back then it was, as much as I loved Edgerrin James wasn't as much of a threat catching, but your boy Marshall Faulk was. Other than Marshall Faulk and Le'Veon when he's in, it's been some years since Le'Veon, but now McCaffrey's doing it. But fellas, now a lot of teams are going to the two-back set or using, a two-back system, because one back doesn't catch as well as the other guy can run. Le'Veon, I think Le'Veon went about it wrong, just shooting his mouth off, because I thought he was valuable. I thought he was real valuable. He just didn't do everything right. But I just, now that you still see receivers getting huge contracts, and you still see quarterbacks getting huge contracts, even DBs. But running backs cannot get love. They just can't. And
I think when Zeke was up for a contract extension, they didn't do it. I think that was a big one.
They had Pollard. Now he's about to be a free agent.
Yeah, because he couldn't do it without Zeke. Hey, the bottom line is, this is going to go full circle. I know it's a passing game today, and everything you draft is in the secondary. You draft athletic linebackers. You draft defensive ends that can drop and rush the passer. What's going to happen is it's going to come full circle, and we're going to go back to the fullback leading the play, and we're going to run ISO, we're going to run power, and we're going to come back to running the football inevitably. I like the kid out of Wisconsin. What's his name?
Braylon
Edward? No, not Edwards. But I like that kid. He's got good size. He can run downhill, and he's got some breakaway speed to go to the next year. That's the kind of guy that will transcend an offense. If I was a young guy on the up and coming as an offensive coordinator, or wanted to be an offensive coordinator and had an opportunity, I'm looking at making my team a running team and attacking those teams that have nickelbacks out there all the time and all these athletic linebackers. And I'm putting big linemen that can get the push.
He's talking like someone's listening. You know damn well he's coming out throwing the ball, noob.
Yeah, Aaron Maradei.
Listen, that was me in the late 2006, 2007.
Oh, this the new you?
But when we get into this, that's something I want to get into and how we talk about it, because I don't want to get it because it'll lead to another hour and a half. But there's so many things that statement alone, I think, could take us into so many different directions, because I'd love to see leading fullback, because that means it's knock 'em. Going back to the knocking game, we're knocking heads. With the big guys being so much more athletic nowadays, I don't know. I just don't see it. I don't know. I don't see it. Think about it now, fellas. What was it? Richie. Remember the old Richie, the old fullback for the Raiders?
Yeah.
He was always, and there used to be guys that were fullbacks. They're bleeding out was football. We loved it. San Fran used a running fullback.
Ravens.
Baltimore. I was like Baltimore
from Tampa Bay.
Yeah, but now that they're a dying breed nowadays, I'd love it. I'd love to see guys go back.
Baltimore's trying to Steelers, Rasheem's favorite.
What's that guy from Baltimore? He's a glorified guard.
Yeah, but Baltimore's trying to transcend it. Hey, if Baltimore goes out and gets Saquon, they're dipping into that running back market. They're looking at Derrick Henry. They're looking at Saquon. They want to continue the running game. Number one, because they know Lamar can't throw any further into his tight end. Number two, because they want to transcend that game. They know the ball control and defense wins Super Bowls. That's old school, and it's going to come back. I'm telling you, everything goes full circle.
Yeah. So real quick before we get out of here, Barber just said something, and Spinney had said it, and we all know it. Offense fills stadiums, defense wins championships. I'd like to know, even if we go back 25, 30 years, you go back to the beginning, but of all the Super Bowls, what is the lowest ranked defense that has ever won a Super Bowl? I'd like to find that out. What is the lowest ranked defense?
Google it.
Probably the Rams defense back in the day when they
played Tennessee. When they played Tennessee.
Oh, they made that last tackle.
Because Tennessee wasn't that great. Let's face it. They were not a great. Who was that? London Fletcher made that tackle, right? Am I right?
Yeah. Well, Mike. I thought his name was Mike.
It was Mike something. You're right.
Mike Jones.
Yeah.
Hey.
Mike Jones.
Yeah, it was. Mike? Yeah.
Hey, I'm going to skip us forward just a little bit. You guys excited for the tournament coming up next week?
Yes.
I am. I like the NCAA tournament. Noobs, you like the NCAA tournament? I know you're a football guy.
Well, it's fun because you always do the brackets, and your bracket gets blown up the first weekend.
Fucking
That's
right.
all right. At least mine does. Mine gets destroyed
Blown up
early.
like Catherine and Haas's. Is it?
And the crazy part about it,
tournament?
I probably haven't done a bracket in the last 6 years, but I get geeked. Starting Thursday after, I'll admit, I don't pay much to the playing game, but come Thursday afternoon, I'm ready, Freddie. I just.
So, you know what's really, really fun is that we're in school, like at least I teach weight training. I put the big screen up and we actually watch it. I let the kids either lift or watch it. And so the tournament is there and there's a big crowd of kids watching it and they get excited. So it's kind of cool being able to do that in school.
Yeah, I hit the box light. Yeah, definitely. Hey, do you guys watch championship week? Next week's championship week.
That I don't. I don't watch the first couple rounds, but I always watch, even if it's Big Ten, I'll watch the championship game. I will admit, because it's nostalgia, I still want to, even though Pitt's no longer part of it, I still find myself watching some of the Big East tournaments.
Yeah, Big East basketball was ridiculous.
It's not what it used to be, but I still like.
You guys don't watch Ryder versus Marist?
Oh shit, that's circled on my calendar.
Hey, Sherman Douglas, that was a name from the past.
Wow.
Talking about the Big East, man, I love watching Syracuse, Georgetown, Connecticut, Pitt, all them teams battling it out.
That was basketball
in the 80s.
And again, I don't want to be a homer because it was the Pitt Panthers, but when you go back to those days, was there ever a conference tougher than the Big East hoop conference? I mean, it was reduced. There was a time.
Was it the SEC of basketball?
Oh, without question.
Yeah.
Every year you were getting 7, 8, maybe 9 teams once in a while. It was ridiculous.
Yeah.
It was ridiculous.
It was fun. I agree.
All right, real quick. Think about this. Now you have Saban, you have Kirby Smart.
No, Saban's done.
Saban's done.
Well, true. But when you had Rolly Massimino, when you had John Thompson, when you had you're looking at
Carnesecca.
Yes, you're looking at all these guys. PJ Carlissimo, you have all these cats in one conference. And the crazy part about it is, John Thompson was a big guy, out of shape. Rolly Massimino, whatever. But these cats had their boys on point. Boeheim, that was what. It was a different breed of fellas. It was
like 2 years ago.
I gotta say the ACC was pretty close though.
It was.
Yeah,
ACC was good basketball. There's no question.
But then at that point though, Noobs, you had Duke, you had
UNC,
Duke, and North Carolina was always up there.
Wake was always good.
Duke, and North Carolina. Wake Forest, they did have these. I liked them more. I'm not gonna lie. When Paul was there, I liked them more when Paul was there. You know what I mean? Every once in a while, Georgia Tech would come up with some guys.
Kenny Anderson.
But you knew, like I said, Georgetown, St. Joe's. I mean, they were gonna UConn. Those guys in the Big East, they were gonna be there, man.
Hey, Mikey, my favorite thing about the Big East, and you named all those coaches, they were all paisans. Carlissimo, Massimino, Carnesecca. Yeah.
And the crazy part about it is, you knew where I grew up there, the little Tan neighborhood. I was up in there, up in the Heights. And when I first took my wife home, now mind you, I'm 6'1", over 3 bills, and some of the guys up there were still coming. Hey, little Mikey Mills, you're home. And my wife, they called you little Mikey Mills. Yeah. It was.
You hung out at the Hall and Inn with all them guys. That's what it was.
Yes.
Yeah. I remember this one time we were playing flag football. We won our game. I think it was a semifinal game. We went with this boy, Mike White. He was a quarterback. This kid could play football. He was a quarterback down at Valley High School. We went up the fucking Hall and Inn. It was like, I don't know, 11:30, 12 o'clock in the morning. He got drunker and pissing. He was balancing chairs on his nose. Oh, my God. I didn't get home till Monday morning. Anyway, let me keep moving here. By the time we do the next show, the field's going to be set. Who are your 4 number ones? Did you guys research?
Wait, number ones, or who do we think's going to?
Who's going to be the top seed in the 4 areas?
It'll be Houston. Will definitely be one. It'll be UConn.
Absolutely. Purdue, definitely.
Purdue. Oh, Purdue's have to be there, Sheen. Have to. I think.
Kansas? No,
they lost. They dropped down to 2 or 3 now.
Yeah, they're low. Yeah.
Hey, Arizona.
Okay.
Arizona.
Real quick, here's the thing, fellas.
There's your top 4. Hey, I got some bubble teams for you guys. Keep an eye out on. Wake is a bubble team. Mike, Villanova, Ole Miss, Providence, Texas A&M, the Pitt Panthers, who have won 20 games, and I'm taking my boy on Saturday night to see the Pitt Panthers up in Pittsburgh against North Carolina State. Last game of the season at home. Seton Hall, Colorado, New Mexico, and St. John's. So there's some old Big East teams in there, Mikey.
Yeah.
Hey, T-Sizzle, what do you got for us this week? The T-Sizzle Quizzle.
Let's keep it. This is honor of Spinny. Harlem Globetrotters historic win streak. How many did they win in a row, guys?
All of them.
71.
Huh? How many did they win?
6.
182.
Not even close.
What was it?
8,829 games.
I said all of them.
All of them. No, it's not all of them.
I know.
Because they lost in, what was it, 1995
To the general.
when they were in Austria or Vienna, Austria, and Kareem came out. He was retired for like, I don't know, a couple years.
15 minutes.
Kareem got a team together called the Honorary Globetrotters or Kareem's All-Stars, sorry, and they beat them.
Wow.
So that was their first loss.
Hey, what was that team? The DC Generals? Who was the team that
Generals.
used to play all the time?
Washington Generals.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Washington Generals.
I'd like to know, we should ask them, did they practice with those teams? You know, or at least the Washington Generals so they could run their skits and whatever have you. I
Pull
remember
the shorts down.
Yeah, I remember being a kid and going at the Civic Arena and seeing the Harlem Globetrotters. So you know how far that is, the Civic Arena.
Yeah.
And my pops being with us, and when they were doing their tricks, he didn't really care for it because he liked basketball. But towards the end, they started playing more real basketball, and he started enjoying it. But I'd like to know, now that I think about it, did they practice with those Generals, and how did that go? You know, is there doing skits? Because he said, like, even when he was with Meadowlark, he ran skits.
We dropped the ball there.
Like to know that.
We should get Meadowlark on the show, huh?
Oh, man. That was my favorite character. He's my favorite character on the
Him and
cartoon.
Curly Neal.
On
Yeah.
what? Scooby-Doo.
Yep, even when they were on Scooby-Doo.
Yeah, absolutely. They were killing it.
46-45, Frederick.
Yeah.
26
Sheen.
seconds.
Hey,
Sheen, what's your
shout out to
question this
Poolsville.
week?
Poolsville won. Hold on, Poolsville won.
Oh, wow. Regional champs.
Yeah.
Falcons.
Sheen's question today is, what's your favorite pie?
Ooh.
It's
Boston cream. Boston cream. Mark,
She's my cherry pie.
Barber, when you go home, they switched it up. They got the Pawnkeys now. Fellas, they got the Pawnkeys at
Oakmont Bakery. Hey, I just got a 6-pack.
Did you have a mail to you, or were you up there?
No, I was up there this weekend. I got a 6-pack of the Pawnkeys.
Were they ridiculous?
You guys like that? You guys like those? I
Yeah,
didn't
you
like
can't
them.
eat the whole thing right then. You got to like cut it in half or something.
Yeah, I didn't
Yeah.
like those. I'm not big on the Oakmont Bakery, man.
Hold on,
Pawnkeys, huh?
Shane. If you'd have asked me that for like the last year or two, the last time I've been like, man, their quality is falling off.
Okay.
This year, I don't know who they brought in. They brought the Keebler Elves in to bake those Pawnkeys. Those were fire.
Maradei. You didn't give me your favorite pie, Maradei.
Oh, my favorite pie is my mother-in-law's pecan pie. She makes a killer. I could eat the whole damn thing instead of eating any turkey at Thanksgiving.
Noobs.
Oh, it's
I'm
so
gonna go
good.
generic apple pie. I love apple pie, man.
Oh,
It's so
yeah.
goddamn good.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sizzle.
Cheesecake.
No,
That's
well,
not
he
a
said
pie.
pie. If
Pie.
he said
That's a cake. It has the word cake in it. That's a
All right,
cake.
go ahead, Mark. Wrap it up, Mark.
Boston cream pie, Jack.
Sizzle,
Oh,
sizzle.
dang.
Hey, fellas, this was an awesome show. It was fun having
Yeah, it was.
Spinny on. We had some great conversation. We had some great conversation off the topic, and I think you guys did a good job of keeping it in check. So go ahead, tell them where they can find you at. Let's start with Sheen, because I know we can find you everywhere.
You can find me in the club. It's going down. No, hey, you can find me anywhere, man. I'm everywhere, anywhere you want to be. That's where I am.
I need you to get out there on social media. Noobs, hit them up.
At Coach Noob on X or the Gram.
Say what?
At One Young Terry on the X and the Gram.
It's all you. It's all you, Chops.
And I need to get more active on the gram. On the gram is Big Chop 79. on Twitter. That's The Real Big Chops. I need to start being more active.
Pineapple sauce.
Appreciate you. Hey, connect with us here on the Original Sports Podcast by checking out our webpage, podpage.com, Original Sports Podcast with Mark Maradei. Like our Facebook page. Join us on Twitter. You can also like our TikToks, watch those things. Those are all OSP with Eminem. You can find us on Snapchat, Instagram, and also all our shows are on YouTube. And it's been an amazing run, guys. We are well over 160 shows. Just with you guys alone, we're over 50 shows. So we've been doing some great things. We've got some big things coming up in season 5 that I'm working on. Don't forget about that. Feel free to email us at originalsportspodcast@gmail. Shout out to Sean Ankoviak for doing the voice intro. Shout out to Charlie Hodgson for the intro and outro music for this season and next season. The new music is coming out soon. Join us every week to experience the on the Original Sports Podcast.
Yeah.
It's the OSP. It's the OSP. It's the OSP. It's the Original Sports Podcast.
This podcast is part of the Frederick Podcast Network. Learn more at listenfrederick.com.